Hello? You're buying me the car, or there's no wedding. No pause. No nervous laugh. No we'll figure it out together. Just a flat statement, like she was telling me the weather was bad tomorrow and I should bring a jacket. I remember the exact sound the fridge made behind me. That low hum, like the house itself was uncomfortable with what it just heard. For context, I'm Daniel, 31M. She's Olivia, 29F. We've been engaged for 8 months, together for almost 4 years. Wedding deposits paid. Save the date sent. Her Pinterest board has more structure than my 401k. The car in question wasn't a necessity. She already had a perfectly fine one. This was an upgrade, a reward, as she called it, for all the stress of wedding planning. She wanted it in my name because her credit was temporarily annoying. Her words, not mine. I didn't argue. That's the part she still doesn't understand. I just nodded once and said, understood. That was it. No raised voice. No lecture about finances or partnership. No reminding her that I'd already covered the venue deposit, the photographer, and her non-negotiable bridesmaid dresses. She smiled like she'd won something and went back to scrolling, already planning what color she'd get. That smile was the moment something in me shut off. She thought, understood, meant compliance. What it actually meant was clarity. That night, while she slept, I opened my calendar and filled the entire weekend. Breakfast, coffee, drinks, dinner. Not dates in the romantic sense, strategic ones. People I hadn't seen in years. Old friends. A coworker she never liked because she asks too many questions. I didn't hide it. I didn't sneak. I posted calm smiles. Group photos. Tag locations. Nothing incriminating, just visible. By Saturday afternoon, Olivia's tone had changed. Who's that? She asked, too casually, pointing at my phone. Just catching up, I said. She laughed, but it didn't reach her eyes. That was when I realized something important. She didn't care who I was with. She cared that I wasn't waiting. And she hadn't even begun to understand what her ultimatum had already cost her. By Friday morning, Olivia was acting like nothing had happened. That's her specialty. She drops a grenade, watches it explode, then steps over the wreckage like it was always supposed to be there. She kissed my cheek while I made coffee, asked if I'd remembered to call the dealership, and reminded me, again, that her friend Jenna got her car before her engagement ring. I said, I've got it handled. That phrase landed the same way my understood had. She relaxed. Smug, even. Control, to Olivia, is about momentum. As long as things keep moving in her direction, she doesn't check the road. Friday night, I went out. I didn't announce it. Didn't ask permission. I grabbed my jacket, keys, and told her I'd be back late. She frowned like I'd broken an unspoken rule. With who? She asked. People, I said. That answer annoyed her more than if I'd named someone specific. I met up with Sarah, an old friend from before Olivia. We talked about work, bad coffee, and how weird it is when someone assumes your future for you. I posted a picture of our mugs on the table. Neutral. Harmless. I smiled because I actually meant it. Olivia texted halfway through. Who's Sarah? I waited 10 minutes before replying. An old friend. No explanation. No reassurance. I watched the typing bubble appear, disappear, then reappear. She didn't like gaps in information. Gaps meant she wasn't in charge. Saturday was worse for her. Brunch with coworkers. Afternoon walk downtown. Evening drinks. Every post was calm. Normal. Nothing she could accuse me of without sounding unhinged. People commented things like you look relaxed and good to see you out. She stopped pretending by Saturday night. So, she said when I got home, arms crossed, voice sharp. Are you trying to prove something? I looked at her, really looked. The tension in her jaw. The way she already assumed my actions were about her. No, I said. I'm just living. That's when her eyes narrowed. Because living, without her approval, wasn't part of the plan she had for me. And for the first time since she gave me that ultimatum, she looked unsure. She didn't know it yet, but the car wasn't the leverage. Attention was. And she was already losing it. Sunday morning, Olivia tried a different tactic. She didn't wake me up with complaints or demands. She made breakfast. Eggs, toast, even cut up fruit like we were in some engagement photo shoot for healthy couples. She slid the plate in front of me and smiled sweetly. You've been distant, she said lightly. Is everything okay? That question wasn't concern. It was inventory. I took a bite, nodded. Yeah, just thinking. About what? She pressed too fast. I shrugged. Life. She didn't like that answer either. Olivia likes conversations with destinations. Apologies. Promises. Reassurance. Silence that doesn't lead anywhere makes her itch. She reached for my hand across the table, squeezing just a little too hard. You know, she said, weddings are stressful. Sometimes people say things they don't mean. There it was. The soft rewrite. I met her eyes and gently pulled my hand back. You meant it. Her smile faltered for half a second before she recovered. Well, yes, but she laughed. I didn't think you'd take it so seriously. I was just being honest about what I expect from my partner. Expectation, not discussion, not agreement. I heard you, I said calmly. That's why I said understood. Her brows knit together. Okay, but you are calling the dealership tomorrow, right? I stood up and rinsed my plate. I'll let you know. That was the moment the air shifted. Sunday afternoon, I went out again. This time I didn't post immediately. I waited. Let the absence speak first. By the time I shared a group photo at sunset, me laughing, arms slung casually over a chair she'd sat in 100 times. Her phone was already blowing up. She called twice. I didn't answer. When I got home, she was pacing. So now you're ignoring me? She snapped. What is this, some kind of punishment? No, I said, setting my keys down. Just space. For what? She demanded. You're acting like I did something wrong. I looked at her then, really calm, really steady. You gave me a condition, I said. I'm just seeing how it feels without pressure. Her voice rose. I'm your fiancé. This is not how this works. I tilted my head slightly. Isn't it? She opened her mouth, then closed it. For the first time, she didn't have a script. And I could see the fear starting to creep in, not of losing me yet, but of losing control. She still thought this was a phase. She still thought I'd fold. What she didn't realize was that the wedding wasn't what I was reconsidering anymore. It was her. By Monday, Olivia was furious, but quietly. That's the dangerous version of her. When she yells, you can track the damage. When she goes quiet, she starts rearranging the board. She didn't mention the car that morning. Didn't mention my weekend. She kissed me goodbye like normal and texted me 10 minutes later a picture of a white SUV with the caption, "This is the one I'm leaning toward." I stared at it for a long time before replying. Looks expensive. 3 dots appeared instantly. So, just an observation, I typed. That was when the call started. At lunch. During meetings. One voicemail after another. Her tone escalating from playful to annoyed to sharp. By the 5th call, she dropped the sweetness completely. You're being weird, she said when I finally answered. And I don't like it. I noticed, I replied. She exhaled hard. Did I embarrass you or something? Because if this is about pride. No, I said. This is about listening. That threw her. I told you what I needed, she snapped. And I heard you, I said calmly. I just didn't hear love in it. There was a pause on the line. A real one. You're overthinking, she said finally. Every couple does big things for each other before a wedding. This is just how commitment works. I almost laughed. Commitment, to her, always came with a receipt. That night, I didn't go out. I stayed home. Sat on the couch. Read. Let the silence stretch. She hovered, clearly waiting for me to crack first. Instead, I asked a question. If I said the wedding depends on you buying me something, I said casually, how would that feel? She scoffed. That's not the same. Why not? Because I bring value, she said without hesitation. I turned and looked at her then. And I don't. She rolled her eyes. Don't do this. That dismissal, that tiny flick of her hand, was the breaking point. Not loud, not dramatic, just final. I nodded once. Okay. She relaxed again. Thought she'd won. What she didn't see was me mentally stepping back, the way you do before leaving a room for good. Not angry, just clear. Later that night, she posted a story, Engaged Life Sparkles, a picture of her ring, carefully angled. I watched it without reacting. Because somewhere between the ultimatum and that moment, I realized something she never expected. I wasn't afraid of walking away. I was afraid of staying and teaching myself that this was normal. And that fear was gone. Tuesday night, Olivia decided pressure wasn't working, so she escalated. She invited her mom over without telling me. I walked in to find them sitting at the kitchen island, wine poured, voices lowered like this was an intervention. Her mom smiled too wide, the way people do when they're about to say something they think is reasonable but isn't. Daniel, she said, Olivia tells me you've been a little hesitant lately. Olivia shot me a look that said play nice. I took off my jacket slowly. About. Her mom gestured vaguely. The wedding. The future. Big commitments. Olivia jumped in. I just think he's getting cold feet. And honestly, with everything I'm juggling, that scares me. There it was. Suddenly, I was the problem. Not the ultimatum. Not the car. My reaction. I leaned against the counter. Did you tell her what you said to me? Olivia stiffened. That's not the point. It is, I replied. Did you tell her you said there'd be no wedding unless I bought you a car? Her mom's smile froze. That's not how it was phrased, Olivia snapped. Why are you making me sound awful? Because it sounded awful, I said evenly. Silence dropped like a curtain. Her mom cleared her throat. Sweetheart, marriage is about sacrifice. Sometimes one person steps up more. I nodded. I have. Olivia crossed her arms. And I will too, emotionally. But I shouldn't have to beg for security. That word again. Security. What she really meant was leverage. I exhaled slowly. Security isn't a purchase. And love isn't conditional. Her eyes flashed. So now I'm the villain? No, I said. You're just being honest. She hated that. Because honesty removes plausible deniability. After her mom left, Olivia exploded. You embarrassed me, she said. You made me look selfish. You did that yourself, I replied. She laughed sharply. You think you can do better? That was the moment. Not because it hurt, but because it didn't. I met her gaze. That's not the question. She stared at me, breathing hard, waiting for me to chase, to reassure, to fix it. I didn't. And in that stillness, I watched her realize something terrifying. I wasn't negotiating anymore. I was evaluating. And the balance of power she'd been so confident in was already gone. By Wednesday, Olivia shifted into crisis management. This is the phase where she stops attacking and starts testing. Little hooks, thrown out to see which ones still catch. She texted me mid-morning. I booked our cake tasting for Saturday. Don't bail. Not asked. Announced. I stared at the message, then replied. I might be busy. That was it. 3 words, and she spiraled. Busy with what? We need to finalize things. You're being immature. Daniel, answer me. I put my phone face down and went back to work. That night, she tried charm. Ordered takeout from my favorite place. Sat close on the couch. Laughed at jokes she normally ignores. Her hand rested on my knee, light but deliberate. You've been under a lot of stress, she said softly. I know I can be intense. I didn't respond. She leaned her head on my shoulder. I just want us to be solid again. There it was. Not equal. Not healthy. Solid, meaning unmoving. I don't feel unstable, I said. She lifted her head. Then why are you acting like this? Because I'm paying attention, I replied. Her jaw tightened. To what? To how fast love turns into leverage. She pulled back like I'd insulted her. That's unfair, she snapped. You're acting like I'm using you. I met her eyes. Are you? She opened her mouth, then closed it. Too many answers. None of them safe. She stood abruptly. You're exhausting lately. I nodded. I imagine this is what it feels like when control stops working. That did it. Fine, she said coldly. If you want space, take it. But don't expect me to sit around waiting. I wouldn't, I said. She stormed into the bedroom and slammed the door. I stayed on the couch, calm, oddly peaceful. Because for the first time since the engagement, I wasn't reacting to her moods. I was watching them. And that night, scrolling through my phone, I saw something she didn't realize she'd given away yet. Fear. Not of losing the wedding. Not of losing the ring. Of losing the version of me that always stayed. And once someone senses that's gone, they panic. She just hadn't reached the moment where she understood why yet. That was coming. Saturday morning, Olivia woke up like the fight never happened. She does that when she thinks time will reset things. She showered, played music, walked out in a robe, and said, cake tasting is at 11. Try not to be late. I didn't look up from my phone. I'm not going. She stopped mid-step. What? I said I'm not going. Her tone snapped sharp instantly. Daniel, this is important. You have to be there. I don't, I replied. Calm. Flat. You booked it without asking. She stared at me like I'd spoken another language. That's what engaged people do. They assume. No, I said. That's what controlling people do. Her face flushed. So now I'm controlling? I finally looked at her. You gave me an ultimatum over a car. You brought your mom in to pressure me. You planned my time without asking. What would you call it? She laughed, but it was brittle. You're really willing to throw everything away over this. I stood, grabbed my keys. You already did. I'm just noticing. That's when she cracked. You think you're special? She snapped. You think women are lining up to date a guy who can't even commit. I paused at the door, not angry, just done. I think commitment without respect is just obedience, I said. And I'm not built for that. I left. I didn't go far. Coffee. Walk. Phone on silent. No dramatic escape, just quiet distance. When I checked my phone hours later, there were texts stacked like evidence. Anger. Accusations. Then panic. We can talk. You're blowing this up. I didn't mean it like that. Just come home. I didn't reply. When I got back that evening, she was sitting on the bed, makeup done, outfit chosen carefully, like she was preparing for a negotiation. "We don't have to decide anything tonight," she said softly. "Let's just reset." I shook my head. "I already did." Her eyes widened. "What does that mean?" "It means I heard you clearly," I said. "And I chose myself." She started crying then. Real tears this time. But it was too late. Because the moment she tried to buy commitment instead of build it, she taught me exactly what walking away would cost. And for the first time, I realized I could afford it. Sunday was strange. Not loud. Not dramatic. Just hollow. Olivia didn't yell. She didn't cry. She went into what I can only describe as presentation mode. Polite. Careful. Like she was hosting a guest she didn't fully trust. She asked if I wanted coffee. I said no. She asked if we should check in later. I said maybe. That maybe bothered her more than a no ever could. Around noon, she dropped the next move. "I told my friends you've just been stressed," she said casually, scrolling on her phone. "They said guys panic before weddings all the time." I nodded. "That's generous of them." She glanced up. "So you're not denying it?" "No," I said. "I'm just not explaining myself anymore." Her fingers stilled. "You're acting like you already left?" she said quietly. "I did," I replied. "Just not physically." That was the moment she finally understood this wasn't about the car. Her voice changed. Lower. Sharper. "You're not going to humiliate me, Daniel." I looked at her. "You did that part on your own." She stood up fast. "If you walk away now, everyone will know you couldn't handle commitment." I didn't rise to it. I didn't defend myself. I just said, "If that's the story you need, you can have it." She stared at me, searching for anger, bargaining, something to push against. There was nothing. Late that afternoon, I packed a small bag. Not everything. Just enough. She watched from the doorway, arms crossed, disbelief finally cracking into fear. "You're really leaving over this," she said. "No," I answered. "I'm leaving over what this revealed." She scoffed. "You'll regret it." I zipped the bag. "Maybe, but I'd regret staying more." As I walked out, she said something I'll never forget. "You were supposed to stay." I turned once, calmly. "You were supposed to love me without conditions." The door closed quietly behind me. No slam. No final speech. Just the sound of control slipping out of her hands, and the realization, settling in slowly, that love you have to threaten for was never really yours. And for the first time in weeks, I slept peacefully. I stayed with a friend that night. Nothing dramatic, just a couch, a blanket, and silence that didn't demand anything from me. By Monday morning, Olivia's tone had completely changed. No accusations. No threats. No ultimatums. Just messages that came in carefully spaced, like she was afraid too much emotion might scare me off. "Can we talk like adults? I think we both said things we didn't mean. I'm willing to compromise." That last one almost made me smile. Compromise only appears when leverage is gone. I didn't respond right away. Not out of spite, out of clarity. I went to work, took calls, lived my day without her hovering in the background of every thought. And that's when I noticed something important. My chest felt lighter. Around noon, she sent another message. Longer this time. I didn't mean the car like that. I was just scared. Everyone expects so much from me. From us. I panicked. There it was. Revisionist history. By evening, I agreed to meet her. Public place. Neutral ground. Coffee shop she always said was too loud. She was already there when I arrived. Perfect outfit. Soft makeup. Eyes red enough to suggest tears, not enough to look unstable. She stood up immediately. "Thank you for coming. Saturday you wanted to talk." She nodded, hands wrapped tightly around her cup. "I don't want to lose you." I got caught up in expectations. The wedding. The image. I forgot what matters. I listened. Didn't interrupt. She leaned forward. "We don't need the car. I don't care about that anymore. I just want us." I took a slow breath. "That's the problem." Her brow furrowed. "What do you mean?" "You only stopped caring when it stopped working," I said gently. "That tells me everything." Her voice cracked. "People make mistakes." "They do," I agreed. "But patterns aren't mistakes." She reached for my hand. I didn't pull away, but I didn't hold it either. "I was never your partner," I said quietly. "I was your solution." Her face fell. And in that moment, she finally understood something she'd never planned for. Control costs more than love. And I was no longer willing to pay. We sat there for a long moment after I said it. The coffee shop noise filled the space between us. Cups clinking, someone laughing too loud at the counter, a barista calling out a name. Olivia stared at the table like it might give her a different answer if she looked hard enough. "So that's it?" she finally asked. 4 years, and you're just done? I nodded. Not just done. Finished. She shook her head slowly, disbelief giving way to anger again. You're really going to walk away because I asked for reassurance? I didn't correct her. I didn't reframe it. I'd already learned something important. When someone rewrites reality to protect themselves, arguing just keeps you trapped in their version. I'm walking away, I said, because love shouldn't feel like a transaction. Her voice dropped. You'll regret this. Maybe, I said honestly, but not today, and not tomorrow. She stood abruptly, chair scraping loudly against the floor. A few people glanced over. She didn't care anymore. You think you're so calm, she snapped. Like you're above all this. I looked up at her, steady. No, I'm just done fighting for a place I should have already had. That landed. She grabbed her bag, slung it over her shoulder, and paused like she expected me to stop her. To say wait. To chase. To bargain one last time. I didn't. When she walked out, the bell over the door rang softly. No drama. No audience applause. Just an ending that finally fit. Later that evening, I went back to the apartment. Not to stay, just to collect the rest of my things. She wasn't there. The engagement photo was still on the wall. I took it down and leaned it face down on the counter. I left the ring in its box on the kitchen table. I didn't block her right away. I didn't need to. The texts came anyway. Confusion, anger, apologies, then silence. And in that silence, something settled. She thought control would keep me. She thought ultimatums were strength. She thought love would wait as long as she demanded. But love doesn't work like that. Sometimes it answers quietly. Sometimes it says, understood. And sometimes it walks away. Bye-bye.